The internet is dragging out receipts so deep, they're rewriting his entire legacy. What's being unearthed now doesn't just touch on his rap career. It exposes a side of him that's been spiraling in silence for over a decade. And with each new discovery, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Drake's world has been falling apart far longer than anyone realized. So before we go further, support me by liking this video and subscribing to this channel. It helps a lot. There's a strange pattern in hip-hop right now, an obsession with fake morality. People perform outrage when it's convenient, pretending to stand for values, only when it helps them tear down someone they already dislike. And this is exactly the smoke surrounding Drake. His fans, and even his critics, are stuck in a strange moral tug-of-war. On one side, people are dragging Tyler, the Creator, for old edgy posts. On the other, they're ignoring Drake's own trail of bizarre, questionable behavior that dates all the way back to his early fame. So the question becomes, when does outrage stop being about justice and start being about power? Let's talk about the moment that broke the internet for all the wrong reasons. After being accused of using ghostwriters, Drake tried to flip the narrative. Instead of addressing the backlash, he decided to write a senior yearbook quote for a fan. Yes, you heard that right. Out of his 142 million followers, he chose one random DM asking for a senior quote and wrote a few bars to show he still had it. He'd brag about it like it was a comeback moment. But instead, it looked desperate. A megastar clinging to whatever scraps of writing credibility he could still claim. And the worst part? The quote itself was cringe, filled with recycled catchphrases and outdated slang that sounded like a parody of his own music. You almost have to ask, was Drake trolling us, or is this really all he's got left to write? But let's pause for a second, because this moment says something deeper. Why that specific DM? Out of millions of messages, why did that one catch his attention? Fans started connecting dots, noticing a pattern of Drake responding to certain kinds of messages and accounts. And that's where the internet started to whisper. When you look at how selective he's been, what his past shows, and what's already been said about his preferences, well, the jokes start to write themselves. This isn't just about bad optics. It's about a long-running pattern of behavior that, once you look closer, becomes harder and harder to ignore. Meanwhile, as Drake tries to hide behind the fog, the spotlight suddenly turned to Tyler, the Creator. Out of nowhere, people started digging up Tyler's decade-old posts, tweets from his early Odd Future days when shock humor was part of his brand. They began calling for his cancellation, labeling him immoral and dangerous. But here's the irony. Tyler has already addressed those chapters. He's spoken openly in interviews, written songs about his growth, and built entire albums around self-reflection. Yet people, many of them Drake fans, resurfaced this old content to deflect from Drake's ongoing scandals. They weren't fighting for morality. They were fighting for distraction. See, this is what makes the situation laughable. The same people who scream, "Cancel Tyler," over decade-old jokes are silent when Drake's name comes up in serious conversations. These are the same fans who will write think pieces about protecting women in hip-hop while defending Drake's history of messy relationships, shady friendships, and questionable actions. From Madonna's story being exposed by Pusha T to Drake's messy history with other people's wives and girlfriends to the eerie silence around his connections. The contradictions are endless. And let's not forget what Kendrick Lamar already told us, long before this meltdown even began. Tyler, meanwhile, was simply frustrated that his fans didn't appreciate D'Angelo, one of his musical idols. His vent turned into a full-blown scandal when old posts resurfaced. But while Tyler's so-called offensive jokes were obvious satire, edgy humor from an era where Adult Swim and South Park ruled the airwaves, Drake's situation is far murkier. The cupcake Karens of hip-hop, as fans now call them, are acting like moral police, except their outrage is selective. It's not about right or wrong. It's about picking sides. Because if morality really mattered, they'd have to address the skeletons in Drake's closet. And there are plenty. Here's where it gets dark. Drake's concerning patterns didn't start with ghostwriters or public feuds. They go back years. As far back as 2009, Media figures like Charlemagne were already calling him out for his weird energy. Charlemagne described Drake as being too comfortable around questionable situations, things that just didn't add up. And the deeper fans dig, the more those old warnings start to make sense. Even stranger, many of the old posts and comments exposing Drake's alleged behavior have started disappearing. Deleted, scrubbed, wiped clean, as if someone is trying to erase history. And that's where people start wondering, if there's really nothing there, why hide it? When Kendrick Lamar released Not Like Us, it wasn't just a diss track, it was a cultural reset. The lyrics didn't just sting, they echoed long-held suspicions about Drake's character. Suddenly, people started revisiting the rumors, the timelines, the whispers, and it all started aligning. What once seemed like gossip now looked like a pattern. At some point, you have to face reality. Drake's brand, the charming, relatable, sensitive superstar, is cracking under the weight of its contradictions. The same man who built his empire on love songs and emotional vulnerability has spent years dodging questions, hiding scandals, and rewriting narratives. And while his fans are quick to point fingers at others, Kendrick, Tyler, Travis, whoever, it's becoming clear that Drake's biggest enemy might be his own history. Every time Drake's name surfaces in controversy, his fans respond the same way, with deflection. They search for a new target, a new villain, a new distraction. But here's the thing, you can't clean your favorite artist's image by burying someone else's truth. Drake's scandals, whether proven or not, have stacked up for years. And pretending they don't exist only makes the backlash worse. Because when the curtain finally falls, everyone sees what's been hiding behind the performance. Tyler, the creator, faced his past head-on. He didn't hide from it. He transformed it into art. Albums like Call Me If You Get Lost aren't just music, they're therapy sessions set to rhythm. He grew up. He evolved. Drake, on the other hand, keeps trying to outrun his own reflection. Every scandal is met with sarcasm, memes, or deflection. But the internet never forgets, and his certified lover boy mask is slipping fast. Here's the final irony, the one that makes this entire saga feel poetic. In this industry, the louder you laugh at others, the quicker your own secrets surface. Drake's fans tried to cancel Tyler, but all they did was remind the world to look back at Drake's own timeline. And when they did, they found receipts, rumors, and stories that were far worse than anything Tyler ever said in his teenage years. So to the Drake defenders, the moral warriors, and the cupcake Karens of the culture, maybe it's time to stop playing defense. Because every time you try to protect Drake from criticism, you're really just protecting the illusion of who he used to be. And at this point, that illusion has shattered. If this proves anything, it's that in hip-hop, fake outrage might win a moment. But authenticity always wins the era. So what do you think? Is Drake's reputation beyond saving? Or is there still a way back from the chaos? Remember to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching. And as always, stay active.